You're listening to a Metro podcast.
What is up, everybody, and welcome to the much-anticipated blockbuster second episode of Scrub League, the weekly podcast that brings you the very latest big issues in esports today, brought to you by metronews.ca. Metro News, news worth sharing. Now, just in case you missed our amazing first show, and if you did, please pause this and go download it, let me introduce you to the people you'll be hanging out with for the next hour or so. On my right-hand side is Kevin Hamilton, gaming writer.
Howdy.
And on my left, Heroes of the Storm enthusiast, Samantha Eamon.
Hey, guys.
And finally, myself, Colin McNeil, award-winning journalist and StarCraft snob. Now, today on the show, I'm going to be talking about cheating in esports, what we can do about it, if anything. Sam is going to tell us about workers' rights, I guess players' rights in esports, unions, that kind of thing. But first up, Kevin is going to tell us why science apparently says pro gaming is as taxing on the body as pro sports. That's all coming up on Scrub League next. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Scrub League. Kevin, before the break, we were talking about how you were going to tell us science is saying pro gaming is as taxing on the body as pro sports. Please tell me about this.
All right, look, I know you're skeptical, but if the science says it's real, you can't argue with the science. Am I right, Sam?
Skeptical is putting it lightly, yes.
So I really wanted to look at the methodology of this one. Unfortunately, this was done by a researcher at the German Sports University, and I do not sprechen Sie Deutsch.
It's literally called the German Sports University?
It is called the German Sports University.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So this is the first researcher to study physical demands in esports. So you guys know that just not anybody can walk in and, be at the top tables at a StarCraft 2 tournament. These people are putting up like 400 actions per minute, which is like 4 times the normal amount a normal human will do. And that's way more than even table tennis players whose brains and hands are going at the speed of light. So it's a combination of motor skills and tactics that just gets these people to a level of stress that's really similar to, if not greater than, according to the researcher, what we call non-electronic sports athletes.
Stress,
yes.
Okay.
So he's measuring the stress hormone cortisol, which is emitted in your brain when you are behind in a CSGO tournament and, time's running out. This is similar, apparently, to a race car driver, the amount of stress that's in their head.
Okay, because the way I was reading this online is, and maybe this is just, clickbait, but a lot of news organizations were phrasing this in the way that it's taxing on your body. But now you're just saying it releases the same amount of the stress hormone.
Well, no, stress, as we all know, is taxing on your body. And it's not just the stress.
It is, but when I heard, stress is accumulatively stressing or taxing, right? When I heard that, I'm thinking guys' hands are breaking because they're clicking. I don't know. It just seems
actually, I read something that said, things like severe carpal tunnel, different spine and different joint issues are cropping up. So like you said, it's not just stress. It's actually manifesting physically.
I 100% believe that. But, it's just the issue I have is the comparison with pro sports. I'm imagining an NFL level linebacker or whatever. And they just came out with a huge study that says, I wish I read this before we came in here, but X% of retired NFL players have brain damage, serious irreversible brain damage. I mean, I'm sorry, you don't get brain damage from playing StarCraft.
No matter how badly I beat you with Smash Brothers, you're not going to get a concussion from it. But there are real physical effects.
I'll ignore that for now.
Yeah,
Unless you whip a controller at his head.
Yeah, which I've been known to do.
Yeah. So there's the stress hormone problem. There's also, you get a really high pulse. I mean, I was playing some Dark Souls 3 last night, and you better believe my heart was beating in my chest.
Damn, man. Sweaty palm syndrome when you play Dark Souls.
Absolutely. They get up to 180 beats per minute, which is equivalent to a fast run or a marathon. And if you're just doing that sustained for a long period of time, that can take a toll.
Is that sustained? 180 beats per minute? Do you think
It depends on the type of game. Whether it's a fighting game, there's going to be periods where it's rising and falling in between rounds and things like that.
Because a StarCraft game takes best 2 out of 3 takes a long time.
Yeah, it can take a very long time.
That's crazy.
There is a quote from the lead researcher that said, "Many of our test subjects are simply average citizens, and average citizens worry me. They simply aren't fit." And that's where the real problem comes in, is that a lot of these people, they're...
Plebs. Unfit plebs.
A lot of these esports athletes are not physically trained for the stress they're putting their body under. And their careers last only, up till their mid-20s. And he's saying that if you can get some proper nutrition, do some exercises to improve your shoulder and neck strength, which helps your fine motor skills in your arms, you can extend your career by 4 to 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And we already lost some people to injury. Some big names. They benched MVP and In Control, 2 very high StarCraft 2 players. Not permanently, but they were saying things like, it just hurts so much that I can't pick up my mouse sometimes.
Damn.
Yeah. I mean, this stuff is real.
Sam, you're the closest thing in this room to a pro gamer, I have to say, because of your MOBA enthusiasm. Can you speak to some of this?
Yeah, I mean, when I'm playing with a group of people and we play say Team League, or if I'm ranking with someone, I've lost track of time and ended up playing for maybe 3, 4, 5 hours straight. And by the time you're done, you do get sore, your eyes get tired. I mean, I'm not doing this at the same speed that these guys are, but I can imagine what that would be 10 times harder under the stress of a pro tournament style kind of game. I can definitely see how that would be not only painful, but super stressful, because I'm doing this in the non-pro way. I'm not making any money. I don't have that stress under me. And I can still feel my wrist gets sore, my elbows, my back from not sitting properly. I think those stretches and nutrition and whatever that Kevin was talking about would end up being really important, especially if you're playing hours on end.
None of this I doubt. We've all played a game for 8 hours straight and felt like death afterwards. But I find the comparison to pro sports sort of odd, weird.
Well, I mean, you don't have to make a one-to-one comparison, right?
No.
What you have to realize is that some things are the same and some things are different.
Okay.
For instance, the largest category of injuries, you have your wrist problems, like your carpal tunnel, obviously, shoulder and neck problems. But another thing that happens is that these people are sitting down and they're training for 8 hours a day. They're going to tournaments.
True.
All this sitting can have health ramifications of their own. There was one player who suffered blood clots in his legs, which is actually potentially a lethal problem if not caught.
My God.
Yeah, we don't want to lose somebody to esports. That is a bad headline.
When that happens, that will be a bad day.
Yes, it will.
That will be a bad day.
I think we also have to think about it, and I was reading something, if you want to compare it to pro sports, the loss of money. I mean, if you have to sub out a player and you have to put your substitute in who may not be as good as your normal guy that's in there, you may end up losing money. And if you look at football or baseball, when they have to put players on the injury list, not only are they may lose games, but the cost of bringing that player back to health.
Oh, of course. For the
So
team,
I think from a financial
perspective,
standpoint, there's definitely a comparison there.
No, that's a really good point. I think more teams should need to be investing in physiotherapists and nutrition specialists, frankly.
Which is very much a dream at this point. I mean, as we're about to talk about, health benefits for teams are not common. You don't have unions. You don't have dedicated med staff.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
So did I change your mind, Colin? Have you seen the light?
You didn't change my mind, but you did illuminate me that the headlines I was seeing were not accurate. What it needs to be is, from what you've told me, is that pro gaming creates the same amount of stress as pro sports. The phrase that I saw was taxing on the body. No.
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
Don't scan the headlines. Come to Scrub League. It's where you get the straight dope.
That's right. We unpack those clickbait headlines.
We do.
That's what we do. And you know what? We're going to unpack a few more clickbait headlines when Scrub League comes back. Stay with us. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Scrub League. Before the break, we were talking about injuries, physiotherapy, nutrition specialists, and esports. But as Kevin pointed out, that's all very much a pipe dream now. Sam, tell us more.
Yeah, I've been doing some reading on certain companies that want to start a union for players. And I think that this is finally they're starting to think about this and it's starting to become real. Wargaming.net, the developer of the game World of Tanks, has come out and said they want to start a union for the players. Now, they said that they want to start it, but they want it to ultimately be run by the players for the players kind of thing.
What are players right now in esports, legally, employment-wise?
They'd kind of be, I guess you could compare them to contractors.
They're independent contractors?
They are signing contracts. Yeah,
Okay.
They are signing contracts with the team, so they're basically signing their lives away to the team and whoever owns the team.
And they have, I'm just guessing here, they have very few bargaining rights.
Yeah, right now, I mean, individual players have almost no rights and almost no power. So what they're trying to do is get players to come together as a group to say, these are the things that we want. Now, as I was researching this, now, they're saying there's no official union yet, but there have been attempts to kind of put together a player bill of rights and issue demands to the different tournament organizers. So 10 top teams, as far as I know, they're only for MOBAs. So this would only be LOL, Dota, Heroes of the Storm. And what they did is they took 10 top teams and they put them all on the list and they sent out letters to the tournament organizers saying these are our list of demands. Some of the demands would range anything from LAN finals and tournaments, so making sure that you had people on a stage for the tournament finals, travel support, so paying for flights and accommodations, the minimum prize pots for different tournaments, so they want a minimum amount of money that they're playing for.
That is really basic stuff. I'm surprised.
And it goes all the way to break rooms that are free from the crowd and fans and stuff like that. So places where they can go to rest or to warm up or to do things like that. So it does get pretty specific. Of course, they want to put in things like health benefits for all teams, not just the teams that decide to give their players health benefits. And the weird thing is on places like Reddit, this was actually met with a lot of negative feedback.
What?
So everything gets met with negative feedback on Reddit.
Downvoted?
It was downvoted. And what happened is the guy that was leading this, he put out this big list of demands to tournament organizers. And in my mind, it might be too early for companies and tournament organizers to need to give into the demands of these teams. I think you need not just the top 10 teams in whatever league it is. I think you need more players from more different games coming together as a bigger group to say, if we don't get these demands met, then we're not going to play. Because right now, if you just withdraw a few teams, how much clout does that really have?
Well, it has to start somewhere. I think if it started with one esport, that would be the most effective thing, right? Like, let's say you get all the teams that matter in one esport. They organize, they're successful, hopefully. The other people from other esports are going to look at that and saying, well, they have it. Like, Heroes of the Storm has it. Are you serious? We don't have it?
Yeah.
And this is pretty basic stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, getting these things on board is essential, and I think needs to be it needs to happen pretty quick. I mean, it's clear. It's clearly clear to me, like, how we got here. Like, these players are all generally young people. They're excited about, playing video games competitively, making money, like making their dream come true. So, they might enter into agreements without scrutinizing it quite as heavily as, someone who's going to make millions in the NFL.
I mean, absolutely. I see your point. People are just going to, if you told me you can play StarCraft and I'll pay you money for it, I would just do it. So it's really tough. How do you stop this at the ground level,
Yeah, and I do think it's a good thing that big teams like Navi and Cloud9 and different teams like that play LoL and Heroes of the Storm, I think having those big teams there says to the smaller teams, okay, well, we got the big guys here. Now it's time for you guys to join in and kind of join us and kind of put the pressure on the tournament organizers. The only issue I see is some of these tournaments that are really new and starting to get going and maybe can't offer those minimum prize pots, are they just going to fold and say, well, we're too new. We can't meet these demands for as far as prize money goes.
Yeah, I mean, prize money is sort of interesting, but I'm more interested in them getting healthcare for example, health benefits. We just spent the last 15 minutes talking about how difficult pro gaming is on the body, blood clots and what was it? Carpal tunnel, spinal injuries. Like, this is crazy stuff. And they don't have health insurance. They don't even have a physiotherapist. Yeah.
And what's really strange about this to me is that, as we discussed, like a lot of these teams are run by people in the professional non-electronic sports world, right? Like former players, general managers, team owners. So clearly they would know that these things can come up.
And their players are their assets. You need to protect your assets. It's irresponsible of them, even just from a cold financial perspective, to just let their players live unhealthily, get injured, have shorter careers, make them less money.
Yeah. Well, there was a lawyer who wrote an opinion piece for an article, and he said, what they did isn't actually formally a union. It's not regulated. They need far more people. They need kind of a power structure instituted and things like that. So what he said is, what is good is that they came up with a manifesto of sorts. They came up with a bill of rights for players, and that's a good start. But he says they need to incorporate more people. They need to incorporate coaches, managers, all different people from all aspects of the sport, and they need to start regulating different things. So he said, get that Bill of Rights out there, make sure that these minimum requirements are met, but you don't yet have legal grounds for a union.
It would really help if they had a couple champions, a couple ace players who were indispensable, who, you couldn't get rid of them, you couldn't sweep them under the rug, who were evangelizing for organizing in the workplace, organizing a union. That would really help.
It's true. But I think from like a macro perspective, it's really just, I'm pretty optimistic. Like this is just going to be a matter of time, I think.
Growing pains right now.
Yeah. Sam, do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, the same as I keep referencing other sports like basketball or anything like that, they have player unions, and you have seen things like player strikes. You have seen things, people negotiating contracts and things like that. So it's only a matter of time as this gets bigger that this will come to pass. I think it's just going through some growing pain stages right now. They're still trying to figure out how to do it, how to get everyone involved.
Yeah, that being said, I can't see it happening soon. I think it's going to take a while, no?
Well, I mean, I hope it happens soon, just for the benefit of those kids and 20-somethings that are playing out there today.
Yeah.
And actually, that was said by one player by the name of Enrique Martinez. He said, it's not so much for the players that have already been in it for 5 or 10 years. He's saying it's the new players that are coming into this, signing new contracts that he said are borderline abusive.
What does he play, Enrique?
As far as I know, he plays LOL.
Oh, okay.
And he just said, the mature players aren't so worried about it. They came in when this was fresh and new, and they were able to sign contracts that they wanted. But the new guys coming in now are, really wanting to play pro, and they're willing to give up more, I guess, to do that. And they're signing contracts that he said could be construed as abusive.
Oh, exploitive. And some of these people who are signing contracts are probably minors, no?
Yeah, I mean, this is
another
really
level of exploitativeness.
Exploitation.
Do you have to be
Exploitation.
I don't actually know that. Do you have to be 18?
To do what?
To play pro.
I don't think so.
Probably depends on the league.
Yeah, that's true.
It could depend
all
on the
depends on that
tournament,
kind of stuff. But I would be shocked. I mean, even in pro sports, you've got 16-year-olds signing crazy contracts. They can't play yet, but I mean, they're in the pipeline, right? They're in the developmental stages.
There's minor leagues and stuff like that.
Or just pure developmental. Like one team is like, you're our guy, that kind of thing.
And as far as exposure for the industry, I think demands like having LAN finals is a big thing for exposure for the sport. Because if you're just playing online from your house or from wherever these teams are playing from, being there on that stage in front of a big audience is a super big thing for growing the industry. So.
Oh yeah, it advances the optics of the industry so much. The
opticality,
the opticalisticy, because it's just like, yeah, okay, watching it on Twitch is cool and all, but the people who run the world right now don't watch Twitch, I would say. Okay, Mark Zuckerberg aside, he probably watches Twitch. But having it like these visuals of having stadiums filled for two guys on a computer playing CSGO is just, that's so impactful. That's such a striking thing. That makes the front page of newspapers, right? That makes radio shows. That makes wonderful podcasts like Scrub League. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't know how we got on this advancing the whole thing topic from that, but... yeah,
well I think
play more stadiums.
A union will help advance the industry, so I think that's kind of where we got it.
Let's hope it does. Yeah, it definitely will. All right, well, Speaking of players organizing amateurs and pros,
This is a professional segue.
this is not an amateur segue. This is a professional segue. Coming back on Scrub League, I'm going to tell you about cheating in esports, including the recent college level shenanigans that Harvard pulled. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Scrub League, guys. Before the break, we were talking about amateurs and pros and contractors and players and all that kind of stuff. And from that, we obviously have to talk about cheating. Do you guys know what Heroes of the Dorm is?
Yeah.
Yeah, she says. Okay. Do you, Kevin?
No.
Okay, that's good because that gives me an excuse to explain it.
Do tell.
It is basically a college level competition for Heroes of the Storm. See the cleverness there? Heroes of the Dorm. Intended to be sort of like an NCAA of esports. Obviously, like nowhere remotely on that scale, but that's what it's playing on. That's what it's modeling after.
Sure.
Yet, it could be. It could be a March Madness thing in a couple decades. Who knows? So anyways, they had this Heroes of the Dorm esports tournament, and there was a bit of a snafu where the team from Harvard University, of all places, Harvard University, were caught cheating. What they actually did was, when they made it into one of the later brackets, one of their players was unavailable. He was on a boat with no internet, apparently. That's literally the explanation. He was on a boat. And whatever. And they really wanted to play. They wanted to win. So they illegally subbed in another player under that guy's account, and he played, and he was found out, and obviously they were booted, and another team was given their bracket position. Harvard issued an apology saying, well, essentially, we're really sorry. We know it was wrong, but we really wanted to play. That was pretty
this was a smaller event that wasn't taking place in like a stadium where you're going to see someone's face.
That's exactly right. I was just evangelizing how we need to have esports in more stadiums for the optics, for the visuals. But no, this is a smaller thing. So it was taking place over network and things like that. So it was being broadcast, I guess, on Twitch and streaming services.
Oh, this is like the only way. This is the only arena in which you could have this sort of thing. Like no one's going to Mrs. Doubtfire their way into a basketball game.
Wouldn't that be awesome, though?
It would be amazing.
No, you're right. It's a uniquely esports issue, and I do think it was funny that it was Harvard too.
Yeah, it's funny to me because esports, when you're playing a game, like all the rules are self-contained, right? Like you can't do anything that's not in the programming. I mean, besides like some original StarCraft cheat codes, like your power overwhelming and so on.
Well,
like nobody's going to be able to pull that. So the cheating has to be outside of the game itself.
Well, you say that. However, there were a couple instances. I'm getting my MOBAs mixed up here. I can't remember if it was HOTS or.
You always get your MOBAs mixed up.
I literally get HOTS and LOL. I just can't. But there was a couple instances of teams using in-game exploits during tournaments to desperately pull off wins. And then this happened, and it was patched immediately after, but Valve ruled that it was in the game. Sorry, you did it, but you won't be able to do it again.
Wow.
Yeah, so cheating in esports is a bit of a problem, and this isn't actually the first time this has happened. No, not at all. In fact, in fighting games, there was a lot of problems with collusion going on a while back. We know of a number of StarCraft match fixing scandals, which is another kind of cheating altogether.
Of course.
There was one last year, and there was one 5 years before that in Brood War, where some older Korean Brood War players were approached by online gambling sites to throw their matches. And people were in the latest StarCraft match. A guy was arrested in the latest StarCraft match fixing scandal. Like, this is real. Guy was arrested in Korea.
But are people using aimbots in Counter-Strike Go? Like, is that a thing that happens?
Apparently, it is. Now, I don't know how much of that is like you get headshot and it's like, oh man, aimbot.
Right.
Oh man, got an aimbot here. But apparently, it is an issue. Like, it really is. And that's why people are trying to come up with solutions for it. There was a guy, about a year ago who had this cool device that he was trying to push around where it was just a connecting device that interrupted your mouse to your computer, and it measured what you did on your mouse, and it translated that and see if what was happening on the screen was happening in your mouse. And he was trying to get all the esports people on board with that so that could be a regulatory thing. Now, obviously, that still only works in a public setting, though, because if you're at home, you can just get yet another device that breaks that device.
Yeah.
So as far as cheating in esports goes, I don't know. I'm seeing like the real solution here is to have it in a public place.
Yeah. In terms of Heroes of the Dorm, it does go anywhere from that technical stuff that you're talking about, but also something as simple as, one U of Connecticut player wasn't registered for the spring semester at the university.
Oh.
So he was registered in an earlier semester, played on the team, and then didn't register in the spring semester, but still played, and they were disqualified for that as well. So it is something as, it's a new frontier kind of. You have those regular kind of offline cheating ways that people do, but then you have this new technical realm of how do we regulate, how do we kind of police all of this that's going on online.
And another thing I'm curious about is in terms of punishments, because when you think about hockey, for instance, like someone who's slashing, they're not going to get kicked off the team, right? And they're legitimately hurting people, but you can say, maybe it wasn't intentional, maybe it just like got caught up in the game. With this sort of stuff, it's a little bit more blatant if they're caught red-handed. But I'm wondering whether the punishments would be similar. Like, is it a slap on the wrist thing? Do people get ejected?
Right now, it seems like it's mostly a slap on the wrist. Other than the match fixing stuff, that's so brutal that people have actually been banned. And like I said, one guy was arrested.
Sure.
But I mean, one issue that apparently is an annoyance is teams are showing up like an hour and a half late to certain competitions. And this is, again, public space, so that's not even solving it. And in the unofficial sort of assumed rule books, you have like a 30-minute grace time. And if you don't, you forfeit. But these organizers are so desperate to have people actually watch, and that's how they make their money. They wait around, and teams are abusing those kind of rules. Speaking of rules, very few esports actually have them. That is kind of shocking. Now, League of Legends does publish a 60-page document each season outlining what is acceptable practice for players, employees, and gaming clubs, as well as potential punishments for infractions. But I don't think anyone else really does. They have best practices, but they don't have like, here are the rules. This will happen to you. X will happen to you if you do Y. Kind of
Heroes
thing.
of the Storm does.
Yeah.
For Heroes of the Dorm, they had set out rules, like things like having to be registered in that particular semester.
Yeah.
The illegal sub that you were talking about, where they had another player come into the other player's account. You can't go into other people's accounts, things like that. Like they do have rules.
I mean,
No
that is
screen looking.
Most basic rules ever.
Winner gets the bad controller.
Yeah.
Yeah, those important rules.
I think we need like more detailed rules though, because what you just said, you're almost saying like, yeah, they had rules. Don't shoot a guy in the head. Like I don't know. Like it's almost like if the rules in baseball were like, oh, don't have robot arms when you hit the ball. Like,
well, performance-enhancing drugs, that's not that far off.
Yeah, but they technically have rules against it. Let's not get into performance-enhancing drugs.
Okay.
Which is probably a thing in esports too.
I'm sure it is.
In fact,
off air, we've been into this topic.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, performance.
Everyone's on Ritalin and so on.
Everyone is on stuff, man. Seriously, beta blockers, things like that.
So we should definitely not police that.
Probably not good when your heart rate is up to 180 beats per minute.
Probably really bad, and it should be policed, but only after people stop subbing other people in for games. That's crazy.
Yeah, because the teams do have legal substitutes that they have.
Of course. But the Harvard team substitute, like this is why the Harvard team sucks, because they had a substitute and he just like wasn't available, like quote wasn't available. Like okay, you lose.
I would be kicking those two people off the team if that were my choice. I'd be like,
maybe
okay, well, if you can't make it to the biggest tournament in that particular game at that level, at the college level, I'm sorry. If you quote unquote can't make it, I'd be looking at kicking them off my team.
Yeah. Well, they don't have a team right now anyway, so...
Well, they still have a team. They were just kicked out of the event.
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of people showing up late, like, I understand the tournament organizers are desperate for people to watch, please their advertisers and so on. But like, you can't set that precedent. You can't have people flout the rules, what rules there are.
What little rules there are.
Yeah, and then just let them get away with it because
right now I feel like esports is like American football in the 1900s, which was becoming a thing, an organized thing, but had a list of like basically assumed rules. And people went so nuts with the rule abuses, they actually had to institute refs. They didn't have refs before. They didn't have referees on the field. Like people were doing crazy things like they would paint the ball the same color as their uniforms, and like so it like basically you can't see it if you're running with it. They would seriously, they would paint they would have elbow patches that looked like the ball, so you thought like a guy had the ball, like if you just glanced at it, and people were running around.
That's astounding.
It's astounding, and I think that's what's happening in esports right now. It's the Wild West.
See, what I'd like to see is a player walk in with like a shimmery sequin covered jumpsuit just to distract the other players.
Oh yeah, they should do that.
Yeah, I think
they
that would be
always
the most efficient.
dress in that boring athletic wear. Let's get some style, man.
Yeah,
let's go.
I don't know about that. I don't know. Like some of them do have uniforms in the sense that they wear the same color or the same decals.
They have uniforms. In StarCraft, for example, I mean they all have sponsored uniforms. That's not a rule though. That has nothing to do with like enforcing any kind of rules, right?
Right.
Yes,
right.
Right.
Okay.
I think we're all in agreement here. Cheating is bad. I think we can press on.
Can we make the groundbreaking statement that cheating is wrong?
I think we can.
Can we do that? You heard it on Scrub League first.
Cheating is wrong.
Cheating is
wrong.
It's just a game, people. Unless you're a pro gamer, then it's real life.
But I guess it would behoove the entire industry to have that set rule book so that and the punishments for breaking said rules set out so that you have that kind of overall thing for everyone to follow. So it's not a kind of patchwork of different things as they happen and kind of coming up with punishments as it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're all in agreement then.
Yeah,
maybe for the first time ever.
For the first time
that
ever.
Was nice.
Maybe what we need is some sort of big, almost Olympic style event so that we can codify some of these rules.
Wow, funny you should mention that, Kevin, because coming up in the next segment, we're gonna be dropping through that topic really quickly.
Who's got the professional segues now?
Yeah, we are the best. And that on that note, stay tuned to Scrub League. We'll be right back. What up, guys? Welcome back to Scrub League. It's now time for our worth mentioning segment. These are all the cool esports headlines throughout the week that we didn't have time to unpack and debate. Sam, there's a new HOTS character?
Yes, there is. Well, she's in development. She has not come out yet, but with Overwatch and its open beta sequence, they have in development the character Tracer, which will be coming out and to be playable, and she has a couple different quirks to her. It's the first time a character's coming out that can move while attacking, which I think will change a lot of things in the game.
You told us this is pretty broken. It's
pretty broken. I can't see her damage being very high, because if it was, she would beat literally almost every character.
Because like your map position and your distance and things, I imagine, are very important.
Yes, exactly. And if she, like, I saw this off of YouTube, and I saw different things. She's very fast, so she is going to be an assassin, I assume. And if her damage is as high as her speed and the fact that she has the ability to move while shooting, it's going to be very difficult to kind of balance that out. So I'm hoping that they're going to, very soon after releasing her, kind of nerf her down a little bit or kind of balance her out with the other characters. And this will change the meta of the game, because she also has an ult. So you have ultimate abilities that you reach at a certain level during a match, and hers is going to be customizable, it says, in 3 different ways. So you're going to have a character that's able to be kind of morph into whatever you need her to be. If the flow of the game is going to need to be more defensive, I'm assuming you can pick a more defensive ult.
So basically, if I start playing Heroes of the Storm, I'm picking this character. Don't nerf it too much, please.
Well, what might happen is she might have a high skill cap. So she might be one of the harder ones to play. Some of her abilities might need combos, things like that. So I think they might put her at a higher skill level to start so that you don't have literally everyone picking her.
See, this is the thing I love about Heroes of the Storm, is that Blizzard's willing to use like really widely different characters and try and balance that. Because Colin, you and I know, big StarCraft fans that we are, like Blizzard's like thrown out, like they've programmed and built all these different units and then tossed them out because they were having trouble balancing it. And I love that Heroes of the Storm is having characters that just sit back at base, or two people control the same person.
Yeah,
it's
man,
amazing.
I hate how in StarCraft 2 you can play some guys in the campaign, but you can't play them competitively. That's so lame. Yeah. In other news, we talked about last time that Cineplex, the movie chain, has been having these esports tournaments. They're really pushing them. They had a Counter-Strike Go one, or they are having it rather, and now they're moving into Street Fighter V, which is really exciting. I'm way more excited about Street Fighter V than I am for CSGO. Personally,
it's nice to see Street Fighter V get a little bit more legitimacy.
Let's push it.
It seems like it's a bit of a slow roll, but
I've been missing the fighting games, man. Let's push it. Let's push it. Another cool thing I was seeing online is there's in development a VR spectator room for Dota 2. So you get your Oculus Rift goggles and you can spectate Dota 2 in this crazy VR 3D environment, and it looks sick. Like I don't watch Dota 2 really, but I would watch it in VR because you can see the board like up in front of you like you normally would with the screen, but like then below you there's this mini map where it's actually moving in real time, and it just looks so neat.
I actually have those Oculus goggles, I'll call them.
You have Oculus Rift, or do you have VR goggles? Because Oculus Rift is really, really expensive.
All I know is they're big white goggles, and it says Oculus on it.
Damn.
Oculus VR. I got it with my phone when I upgraded my phone, and so having tried that out, which the technology is amazing.
Yeah.
Being able to actually sit there and watch a match like that, I'm super excited for that. I would totally do that.
Yeah, I would do it too. Like I've even tried the mid-range VR stuff, like not the high-end Oculus thing, and it was really neat.
Yeah, it's definitely encompassing.
And Colin, you and I have talked about this IRL, but I'm really hoping that that esports leads the pack in terms of like replays and things with VR. In terms of non-electronic sports, because I can just imagine, everyone's got their helmet on in football. There's a little high-impact camera on the front. You can put on your VR. You can be in that moment.
That'd be so cool. Esports needs to get there first, for sure.
It'll be way easier because you're already in a first-person camera for a lot of games.
We spent most of the show talking about like player unions and cheating and all that kind of stuff. Well, there's a new Olympic-style event for esports coming to Rio this year, and it's apparently being backed by the UK government. It is, when I say Olympic style, I mean you don't win money, you win medals, and you compete for your country, and there's qualifiers and all this kind of stuff. It's the Rio. Their press release was a little confusing, but when it's being released in Rio, it's not going to be the full event. It's almost like a developmental version. Maybe it's qualifiers, because the first one is going to be 2018 in Korea, South Korea, and 2020 in Tokyo. This is really cool. It reminds me of a thing called the World Cyber Games. Do you know what the World Cyber Games is?
Do not.
Oh, man. It was this sick thing that was going for a couple years. It was trying to be the Olympics for esports. This is before MOBAs even existed, so it was a little crippled. But it is when I first started watching StarCraft, like just watching it. I've been playing it for almost a decade, and I started watching Brood War. And even with Korean commentary, although there was excellent English commentary featuring Artosis, it was amazing. They were some of the best StarCraft games I've ever seen. I still remember them. It was such a cool scene. It was really professionally done. They were filling stadiums. And this is, 2008, 2009, before this was a common occurrence, right, or at least before I had seen it.
So you have high hopes for the E-games?
I have high hopes. I want to see my boy Jaedong compete for Korean gold, I guess.
See, I'm a little bit more concerned, because if you're not getting money, you're getting medals, then it's about the prestige, right? But the Olympic Games have a history that goes all the way back to ancient Greece, right? So the E-games are starting
StarCraft
in 2016. Sure, it's got to start somewhere and sometime, but I don't know whether are people going to jump into this when there are all these paying tournaments.
Well, I'm down with it because people seem to be really hot for the idea of winning medals. It's like almost a way to legitimize esports. Last show, we actually talked about X Games and esports happening at the X Games and winning like Halo 5 medals.
Sure.
Which is, it's really stupid to be at the X Games. But to have your own Olympic style event for esports, I'm down with that. Let's do it. I'll watch it. I'll watch it in 2018.
Can I get a Ric Flair woo?
Woo!
And I think it's also good to kind of showcase the different personalities and the different strengths of different countries, because within esports, you definitely have countries that
Korea.
Basically Korea. Yeah. Pretty much Korea and China.
That was one of the problems with, not to get too much into this, but that was one of the problems with the World Cyber Games. It was basically like mega Korea dominance. And if there was like the random German guy, the random Ukrainian guy, it was sort of like the great European hope or what have you.
But I'd love to see which countries end up being associated with which games. Because you have, in the regular Olympics, you have Canada who, is known for winning hockey all the time. Or you have different sports associated with different countries. So how's that going to flesh out for esports?
Well, speaking of which, professional segue number 3, I believe we're going to talk about this just coming up.
Get it, Kevin.
All right.
Literally the worst.
Coming up right after the break on Scrub League, we're going to talk about fostering the next generation, crazy Korean high school esports teams, Korean sport domination. Could it happen here? Stay with us.
Welcome back to Scrub League. Kevin, congratulations on that professional segue.
Thank you.
Do you want to take us into this topic?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were just talking about South Korea, and South Korea basically owns StarCraft 2. They basically own League of Legends, but people are saying that a recent tournament is kind of the harbinger of things to come, which is the team MVP Phoenix just swept the reigning champs Evil Geniuses at the League playoffs. And it was only like a $100,000 grand prize tournament, so it wasn't the biggest thing. But this is Dota 2, and this is not a game that the Koreans are really known for dominating. But it looks like the time has come.
Is it
basically
happening again? Is it deja vu?
It could be. So I was just wanted to talk about to what extent does national culture and the support of a nation lead into your success? Because there was a great story that popped up about a Polytechnic high school that has an official League of Legends team. Under the name Wannabe, which I think is...
This is in Korea?
This is in Korea.
Okay.
Which I think is adorable, this name Wannabe, and all the bowl cuts. And the principal, who goes by the amazing name Bang Sung-ho, he said, "This is the coolest day of my 30-year education career."
Bang Sung-ho.
I'm not even going to go there. Nope.
"This is the coolest day of my 30-year education career. I will try hard to have their dream realized." He is 100% behind them. He's backing them.
He will try hard.
He's going to be super try hard for them.
He's a try hard.
And I don't
Confirmed.
In Canada, you have that hockey culture, right? Where parents will wake up at 4 a.m. to drive their kids
Hell yeah.
to the ice to get that practice in, right?
Ice?
Yeah, to the ice.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, so... I mean, I don't think people are really supporting esports dreamers in North America the same way.
Oh, you're totally right. It's all about the culture, and the culture goes deep. I mean, Canada and hockey is a perfect example. You get the parents, like you said, who wake up 4 a.m. to drive 45 minutes away to a rink, freeze their asses off watching their kids play Timbits hockey. But on the other hand, the government pumps tons of money into developmental programs for ice hockey, for curling, things like that, so that we can be dominant about it. And I'm sure, without researching this in the slightest, that Korea does the same thing. Not to mention they have how many channels that were dedicated to just StarCraft?
I believe it's 2.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's quite a few.
And they've been doing that for a minute too. This is not new there. So they have the infrastructure, they have the developmental pipeline, and they have the culture for it. I mean, they're unstoppable. They're a juggernaut.
Yeah, I mean, is it going to happen here? Like, as a matter of time, do you think we're going to get that culture? Or do you think esports as an entire realm is just going to be like the Germans and the South Koreans and the Japanese, and that's it?
Honestly, it's only a matter of... Sorry to cut you off, Sam. I was just going to say it's only a matter of time before the Americans decide we want to be the best at this. And then we'll have a little competition.
And yet I don't think the Americans are going to be able to take over this time. And I think part of it is a completely outside issue from gaming. I think 2 things. You have, if you want to get a younger generation going in esports, you need parents who are supportive of that. And I don't think the parents of this generation really think of this as a sport or as something healthy that they want their kids dedicating their time to, as they would with a sport that has more action to it. Because like it or not, in North America, and I know this doesn't sound like it has anything to do with it, but we do have an obesity problem. And I think parents would rather encourage their kids to do something a bit more active. So I think what we need is, first of all, to have that kind of, as you were talking about before with coaching, that kind of, doing exercises and nutrition and things like that, and really harping on that in order to get the parents on board to support these kids in kind of going forward with esports. So I think it's definitely a culture thing, and there are a lot of different elements to that, and it's going to come down to parents supporting kids in that.
You're totally right. Esports needs to let people know that this is not the best way for your 15-year-old to get carpal tunnel syndrome and never have a girlfriend. Like, they need to destroy those stereotypes, some of which are true right now. And they do need to make it like a healthy, viable option, like a career thing. They need to frame it, spin it, PR it.
Yeah, but I think it's also just 100% going to happen naturally, because all these people that played on their NES, their Atari 2600s, their Sega Master Systems, growing up, having kids, they're going to want to, have what's best for them, what they think is cool.
Totally. But like, okay, I grew up with the stuff you just mentioned. I am approaching childbearing age. I won't bear them, but if I had kids right now and they're like, I want to play Heroes of the Storm 8 hours a day, I'd be like, you're not going to do that.
Nope.
Wow.
That's not real life.
But they'll do it anyway, like I did.
Oh, no, they won't.
Don't let their dreams be dreams, Colin.
You got to have a balance. Life is all about a balance, right? Parents want their kids to be social. They want them to grow IRL, both physically, mentally, culturally. And you honestly can't do that by typing GLHF 20 times a day.
And I think it might take another generation, like our generation now that's growing up with, or maybe those slightly younger than us, it's going to take them being the parents of kids and saying, yeah, Heroes of the Storm, StarCraft, LOL was a big thing in my day, and now it's a bigger thing now. So I think it's going to take another generation for it to fully latch on in North America, as far as fostering it as soon as high school.
You're probably right. So we got a long way to wait. Although Kevin thinks it's going to happen 100%.
I mean,
I want it to happen. I think it's just going to take a while.
That is all the time we have for Scrub League. I am so sorry, Kevin. I did want to quickly mention that we promised you guys the results of a Super Smash Bros. Tournament for N64. That never happened. We never did it, but we will do it. We will do it this week. I will win.
He's running scared, folks.
That's
yeah, he's
true.
definitely chicken.
I went on vacation. All right, guys. That's it for Scrub League. Thank you so much for downloading, listening. Please tweet us, Facebook us, email us, do whatever you got to do. We'll respond to you. We love hearing from the fans.
Snapchat, Foursquare,
we don't have those things.
MySpace.
But not Google Plus.
Yeah, please friend us on MySpace. And we'll see you next time on Scrub League.
This has been a Metro podcast.